This is Melanie Wilkinson with YorkNewsTimes.com. It was 2 years ago when landowners first approached the York County Commissioners, asking them to set up some zoning regulations regarding pipelines and other underground transmission lines. Well, 18 months ago, the Planning Commission started working on those types of zoning regulations. And just this week, finally, after more than a year of discussion, those regulations were brought to the county board for a public hearing. Dozens of people attended, and many had opinions that they wanted to express and concerns that they wanted the board to know about.
I actually want to address kind of some misinformation that was sent to York County citizens, because I think in a public setting it's important to note Nebraskans for Jobs, which was started by TransCanada staff member, TransCanada lobbyist, and the Laborers Union, sent a misleading mailer saying that the zoning regulations that the zoning committee that you guys appointed actually didn't write the regulations, that in fact some unnamed radical environmental group, which I assume they're referring to Bold, Nebraska, wrote those regulations. And I think it's a shame that TransCanada and Nebraskans for Jobs have to resort to misleading York citizens when common sense regulations are being written to protect land and water. And it's fine if we have disagreements on policies, but it's certainly not okay to lie to York County citizens. And if you have to resort to lying, that probably says a lot about the character and your position on this issue. We have studied this issue for over a year within the committees in this body. It has been looked at even longer than that in non-formal settings. We have provided trainings for this body as well as citizens. We have all come together to study this issue. And what is being presented is not only legal, it makes sense, and it provides protections for this county. And any company who wants to come in here and build a massive energy project should have to abide by what you and the citizens put in place, not what is best for their bottom line. And TransCanada in particular will say anything they want in order to get as least regulations in place as possible. I understand that from their business perspective, but that's not what we are here for. We are here to make sure that proper zoning is in place for the long haul and for citizens that come behind us.
Obviously, she has accused our organization of lying and us of being liars, which is completely inappropriate in a public setting like this to make those kind of comments, obviously. Let me just say that, yes, our organization has sought to relay information to residents of York County to let them know about the zoning regulations, to let them know that the cropland overlay district and those requirements would apply not just to pipeline companies, but to other entities as well. In our read of the regulations, that they apply to landowners. And so we believe strongly that York County residents should be aware of the extent of those regulations. And also, again, to specifically address the previous speaker's comments, our communication with York residents did state that the regulations before you are supported by individuals or organizations with an extreme environmental agenda, and we stand by those comments.
Relative to the proposed depth provision, we are also concerned about that provision. The stated cause is to ensure that, or the stated need is to ensure that that irrigation is allowed to continue. But I think it's relevant that in addition to the systems that you just referenced, all of which are buried at less than the proposed minimum depth requirement, York County has 150 miles of existing pipeline installed at depths less than the proposed minimum depth of the regulation. During the hearings before the Planning Commission, there was no example given of an irrigation project that could not proceed as a result of this existing infrastructure. So while we agree wholeheartedly with the goal of ensuring that irrigation is able to continue, this provision does not appear to be necessary to enable it to continue.
You know, you can be concerned about proposed projects in the county and adding costs to them, or you can be more concerned, as I am, about landowners that are trying to use the land as it was intended to be for agriculture. So I guess I look at projects that need to go across agricultural land as possibly guests to use the land, and we'll all work hard to make it work, but I think our first priority needs to be how the land should be used in York County. It would be much easier for many people that I have talked to that if anything underground passing through farmland could be at that 5 foot or deeper, just because we don't want our irrigation lines at 8 feet, like you spoke about the utility lines being at 8 feet. So.
But our extractive industries have had their way for many, many years. And this 5 foot depth, I do not believe is unreasonable, because TransCanada says that if you go over the top, you have to stay a foot away from their line. Well, if they put it at 4 foot, that means your line has to be at least 3 foot, which is approaching the frost depth. So, and if you go under it, then if they're at 4 foot, it's a 3 foot pipe, a foot under it, you're having to bore 8 feet under. So it's an extreme, disadvantage for the farmer.
The zoning regulations for underground transmission lines under consideration tonight need to pass 3 tests. First, do they attempt to regulate safety, which is the purview of the federal government and expressly preempted? Well, clearly they do not. Secondly, will adhering to the tenets of the proposed zoning prevent the installer or operator of any underground transmission system from following safety standards imposed upon them by the appropriate regulatory agency? The answer is no. And third, will the proposed zoning prevent the construction of underground transmission lines to York County? The answer is no. The proposed zoning does not regulate safety, prevent safety, or prevent construction, but it does provide York County with economic protection for its agricultural-based economy well into the future. The proposed zoning regulations pertaining to underground transmission lines are no different in their intent than any other regulation in the zoning handbook. Nebraska State Statute 23-114.03 says in part, zoning regulations shall be consistent with an adopted comprehensive development plan and designed for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, morals, convenience, order, prosperity, and welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Nebraska. Clearly, the proposed zoning falls within the criteria for zoning regulations as authorized by the state of Nebraska. Compliance with the proposed zoning regulations will not deny a single Nebraskan a job. The proposed regulations will do nothing to hinder the efforts of the United States in its move toward energy independence. Nebraska's prosperity will not be infringed upon by these regulations, and in fact, compliance with these regulations will help assure the prosperity of York County for generations to come. I urge the board to stand firmly behind the economy of York County, and by doing so, the citizens of York County, and adopt the proposed zoning.
Tonight's hearing is not about whether some pipeline should be built, or how safe it is, or how badly our country needs oil or jobs. Don't let all this testimony distract you from the fact that this is about doing what is best for the people of York County, which I believe is the duty of the county board. There's been a lot of discussion in the past year, threats of legal action, assurances that nothing needs to be done, testimony that everything is already regulated by the federal or state governments, by those who stand to gain the most by not having these zoning regulations. Here in this public forum, the citizens of York County are simply asking you to support the hard work of your own appointed planning commission. They have listened to the farmers and landowners' concerns about these projects and how they will impact the York County businesses which are raising crops and livestock. Not one of these proposed regulations is difficult to comply with. There is no intent to prevent others from going about their business. This is not about messing up my business, which has been successfully operating in this county for over 100 years. I'm confident you know that implementing these regulations is within your authority, and that by making them part of the York County zoning, the future of agriculture within the county is granted some protection from encroachment from non-farming interests. Ignoring all the banter from the self-serving special interest groups, it appears to me to be a simple decision. The county should have these regulations on the books, so vote to implement them.
Now, due to the sheer volume of comments that are being made and the request to be for people to make written testimony, there will be another public hearing held on this, and it's likely that the county board won't even make any decisions for at least 2 months. Again, this is Melanie Wilkinson with YorkNewsTimes.com.